Devaya.
Narayanam namaskritya naram chaivinaroktamam devim sarasvatim vyasam tato jayamutirayat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should first offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayana, to Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Sarasvati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta Prayeshva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavat Yutamashloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Hare Krishna. We're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 9, entitled Answers by Citing the Lord's Version. Text 29. Text 29, Chapter 9, Canto 2 of Srimad Bhagavatam. Today's May 9th, 2021. Okay, so text 29. Bhagavat Shikshitam Aham Karavani He Atandrita Na Ihamana Pajasargam Padyayam Yat Anugrahat Bhagavat Chiksitam Aham Karavani Yatandrita Nehamana Prajasargam Padyayam Yadanugrahat Bhagavat Chikshitam Aham Karavani Yatandrita Nehamana Prajasargam Padyayam Yad Anugrahat Bhagavat Chikshitam Aham Karavani Yatandrita Nehamana Prajasargam Padyayam Yadanugrahat Bhagavat Chikshitam Aham Karavani Yatandrita Nehamana Prajasargam Padyayam Yadanugrahat. Would anyone else like to chant the verse?
Bhagavat Chikshitamaham Karavani Yatandrita Nehamana Prajasargam Padyayam Yadanugrahat.
Bhagavat Chikshitamaham Karavani Yatandrita Nehamana Prajasargam Padyayam Yadanugrahat.
Bhagavat. By the personality of Godhead. Shikshitam. Taught. Aham. Myself. Karavani,
Karavani,
by acting.
by acting.
He,
He,
certainly.
certainly.
Atandrita,
Atandrita,
instrumental.
instrumental.
Na,
Na,
never.
never.
Ihamana,
Hamana,
although acting.
although acting.
Praja Sargam,
Raja Sargam,
generation of the living entities.
generation of the living entities.
Badyayam,
Badyayam,
be conditioned.
be conditioned.
Yat,
Yat,
as a matter of fact.
as a matter of fact.
Anugrahat,
Anugrahat,
by the mercy of.
by the mercy of.
Translation. Please tell me so that I may be taught in the matter by the instruction of the personality of Godhead, and may thus act instrumentally to generate living entities without being conditioned by such activities. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Brahmaji does not want to become a speculator dependent on the strength of his personal knowledge and conditioned to material bondage. Everyone should know in clear consciousness that one is in the execution of all activities an instrument. A conditioned soul is instrumental in the hands of the external energy, Gunamaya Maya, or the illusory energy of the Lord, and in the liberated stage, the living entity is instrumental to the will of the personality of Godhead directly. To be instrumental to the direct will of the Lord is the natural constitutional position of the living entity, whereas to be an instrument in the hands of the illusory energy of the Lord is material bondage for the living entity. In that conditional state, the living entity speculates on the absolute truth and his different activities. But in the unconditioned stage, the living entity directly receives knowledge from the Lord, and such a liberated soul acts flawlessly without any speculative habit. The Bhagavad Gita, chapter 10, text 10 and 11, confirms emphatically that the pure devotees who are constantly engaged in the loving transcendental service of the Lord are directly advised by the Lord, so much so that the devotee unwaveringly makes progress on the path home back to Godhead. Pure devotees of the Lord are therefore not proud of their definite progress, whereas the non-devotee speculator is in the darkness of illusory energy and is very much proud of his misleading knowledge based on speculation without any definite path. Lord Brahma wanted to be saved from that pitfall of pride, although he was posted in the most exalted position within the universe. Om Ganatmirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chaksuran Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Upakadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utaparakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Staha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Saganaraganatam Vidam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Purijana Sahitan Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitam Stra Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namaskute Tapta Kanchana Garange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tuyubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyeva Cha Patitanan Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sadigwa Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 9, entitled Answers by Citing the Lord's Version, Text 29. Bhagavat Chikshitam Aham Karavani Yatandrita Nehamana Praja Sargam Padhyayam Yad Anugrahat. Please tell me so that I may be taught in the matter by the instruction of the personality of Godhead and may thus act instrumentally to generate living entities without being conditioned by such activities. Hare Krishna. So Srila Prabhupada writes, to be instrumental to the direct will of the Lord is the natural constitutional position of the living entity, whereas to be an instrument in the hands of the illusory energy of the Lord is material bondage for the living entity. So Krishna consciousness is natural. We hear a lot, well, I want to do what's natural. Let's do what's natural. So, Nityasita Krishna Prema Sajya Kabunoi Shravanadi Shuddha Chitte Karye Uday. That Krishna, love of Krishna is naturally, eternally situated in the heart of all living entities. It's not something to be unnaturally, artificially gotten from some external source. It's not an artificial imposition on the mind, heart, or consciousness. And that natural Krishna. So to be Krishna conscious and to act in Krishna consciousness, that is natural. That's what's natural. And that natural love of Krishna is awakened through this process of hearing and chanting. Primarily hearing and chanting. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So of course we hear a lot like, well, kind of like spiritual means to be authentic, do what I feel, do what's natural. I want to do what's natural, do what I feel. Okay. So then that gets into the question, if we want to not just be fluffy and bluffy about it, it gets into the question, who is this I? Who is this I? Because we agree, yeah, let's do what's natural for the self. So what is the self? Am I these eyes? Am I this belly and tongue? Am I this ego that I developed as a teenager? Yes. Am I the body's desire to sleep and have sex? Okay, so what is the I? And so, yes, let's do what's natural for the body, for the mind. And so then, okay, so the actual I, that's the spirit soul, that's the driver of the car, or to use an analogy, the operator of the computer. The software is like subtle matter, mind, intelligence, and a hankara or false ego. And the hardware is the gross matter, bone, skin, flesh, like that. So for the operator of the computer, the driver of the car, that atomic unit of sentience that animates the subtle and gross matter, what's natural is to chant the names of God and dance in ecstasy. What's natural is in Tivrena Bhakti Yogena Yajita Pushampara, is intense devotional service. Okay. So Brahma is praying here to be an instrument for God, for Krishna. And so this is the prayer of a devotional soul. This is the prayer of a devotional soul who's evolved in the process of purity. That let me be an instrument for your will. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, Nimitta matram bhavasavya sachi. Krishna is saying that, look, this whole battle here, it's already Like, I already know the results, right? So many will be there. Actually, it's described there are 600 million soldiers killed. And so Krishna says to Arjuna, like, you could fight or not fight. You can be but an instrument. You can be but an instrument. And the Lord's plan will continue with or without us. And then our choice is to what extent do we choose to consciously participate in fulfilling the personal desires of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And to what extent do we consciously choose to be a surrendered instrument for the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Let thy will be done. And to the extent that we're choosing that, then we're alive. That's the life of the soul. Jivera Svarupa Hori Krishnera Nichidas. Then the natural bliss and eternity and power and beauty and love and radiance and vibrancy of the soul is purely, powerfully manifest, because that's our natural position. Just like, let's say, if we choose to surrender, I mean, surrender is not like a popular word or something, but our nature, this is an important point, our nature is to surrender. We're not going to get away from surrender. We're not going to get away from being an instrument, either for the truth of the personality of Godhead or for the forces of illusion. We're going to surrender. We're going to serve. A highly popular folk singer had a song, you gotta serve somebody. Bob Dylan. He went through a Christian phase. I don't know where he's at now. He went through a Christian phase and he had a song, you gotta serve somebody. I saw him live and in concert at Penn State in 1981. So that's true, that we're going to serve somebody. We don't have a choice. We do have a choice on who we're going to serve, for who we're going to be an instrument. We're going to, our nature is to be an instrument. Our nature is to surrender. Our nature is to serve. Our choice is how to direct that intrinsic, unavoidable propensity. Our nature is to be dependent. That's also not popular to say. In personal growth, we say so much in transformation. Just be detached. Just be detached. I say it all the time. Sometimes I use non-attached. Okay. Here's the thing, though. The nature of the self is to be attached and dependent. That's the thing. Again, our choice is we can be attached, dependent, served, surrendered to the internal energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then, just like if we surrender to the laws of the state, then we are free from being under the control of the police and the prison guards. If we have a choice, I can choose, I'm not surrendered to the laws of the state. I'm going to smash cars and drive on the left side of the road and break into houses and steal money. Okay, that we have that choice. And then with that misuse of choice, then our freedom of choice is constrained in a prison, maybe in solitary confinement, like that. So to the extent that we direct our natural tendency for attachment to spirit, which means the devotion, the natural devotional service that's intrinsic for the soul, then we're free of the bondage. That word is used here. That word is used. Badyayam. We can see the English word bondage there. Badyayam, to be conditioned, bonded. Then we're free from the bondage of the ropes, the gunas, the modes of material nature. You know, when I back in the 1990s when I developed the Vedic personality inventory as part of my doctoral studies. A kind of like a thesis, a principle coming from Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita is that the three gunas, they represent an empirical basis for happiness, an empirical basis for peace, for fulfillment, for satisfaction, for joy, for all those experiences everyone's looking for. More specifically, to the extent that we cultivate sattvic habits of goodness, and sattvic worldviews in all areas of life, whether it's our relationship with Lakshmi, money, our relationship with caring for the body, our relationship with communication, our relationship with eating, sleeping, time management. To the extent that we develop sattvic habits, we will experience, this is what the Bhagavad Gita says, we'll experience increased relief from debilitating stress, depression, shame, alienation, depression, like that. It will increase joy and life satisfaction. Just the example is given, like if we have a gnarly knot, all sorts of strings and ropes tied in a knot, and generally if we pull a string or a rope, the knot gets more and more dense and thicker and impossible. But we can find, oh, there's one string, if I pull it in this way, actually the knot begins to unravel. So that's a metaphor for the knot in our heart. And for each area of life, for each relationship conflict, moral, ethical dilemma, emotional baggage, whatever, for each area of life at each moment, to the extent that we're able to identify that sattvic thread, then bijyate hridayagrantis chijante sarasamshe kshiyante chasya karmini drishta evat minishvere, then the knot in the heart is pierced and all misgivings are slashed to pieces. The chain of fruitive activities, that we're no longer stuck in this karma of being driven by the lower modes. And so realizing who we are, the spirit self as the master of material energy. So we're going to be an instrument. Our choice is of who? Internal energy or external energy? Internal energy or external? Internal energy means the energy of bhakti, the energy of devotional service. And then Prabhupada, he cites two of the Bhagavad Gita has 700 verses, and there's 4 verses in chapter 10, generally regarded as the seed verses or the nutshell verses of Bhagavad Gita. And Prabhupada cites 2 of them here, 10 and 11. And these verses are about, so how do I be an instrument of the internal energy of higher power? So this is the guidance here. So the first verse, text 10.10 of Bhagavad Gita, Tesham satate yuktanam bhajatam pridipurvakam tadami buddhi yogam tam yena mamupayanti te. Krishna says, to one who is sincere, to one who's devoted to serve me, I give the intelligence by which they can come to me. So there's 2 things there, sincerity and intelligence. Of the 2, most primary is sincerity. So all we need to do is be sincere. So it's an important distinction. It's simple. It is simple. It's easy. I don't find it easy. So there's a distinction between simple and easy. Of course, to simply be sincere, to serve God with love and devotion, that's the essence of all genuine, bona fide, spiritual or authentic religious teachings. Religion not as a box or a group to join, but religion in its essential sense, connection of the self with self and connection with the self with source in the Old Testament, or you might say the Maha Mantra in the Hebrew Old Testament, probably a mantra that Jesus chanted so much in the Hebrew. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'kol v'lavav b'kol nafshcha b'kol modecha. Love God with all your heart, all your soul, all your might. It's the essential commandment. Smartavya Satatam Vishnu Vismartavya Najatuche. Always remember God, never forget God. Always remember Krishna, never forget Krishna. All the other rules and regulations are meant to serve that. We don't want to miss the forest because of the trees. All the other rules and regulations are there to serve that essential principle, Krishna consciousness, God consciousness. So if we're sincere, so we can make it easy. For me, it's not easy to be actually sincere because I'm attached to my own God project. I'm attached to other things. That attachment makes to make even one drop of advancement on this path of bhakti yoga. It makes it like a struggle. It doesn't need to be a struggle, but it's a struggle because of our material attachments. And so if we're sincere, Krishna gives us the intelligence. Krishna gives us the intelligence. I know some of you have experience of our Sattva Tov coaching and coach training and seminars and workshops and books and literature. And there's so many techniques and methods, and they're all meant to move ourselves to realization of these two verses that Prabhupada cites here in Bhagavad Gita. They're talking about super soul within the heart. Sarvasya cham vidisani vistu matasmi jaganamapoanamcha. So we talk a lot about that the purpose of transformation, personal growth, coaching. Right? We often say, like, yes, I'm not the expert in your life. Okay. I'm endeavoring to cultivate expertise to facilitate the process of you connecting with the highest guidance within, which is another way to say Chaitanya Guru, the Lord within the heart, Paramatma, like we are Atma, and then Supreme Atma, Paramatma, God within the heart. That's where Krishna is. So then Krishna says in the next verse of Bhagavad Gita, chapter 10, text 11, that Prabhupada cites in this purport here to the Bhagavatam, Tesham evanu kamparta mahamagyane jam tamahana shaimyatma bhavasto ganadipena basvata. Krishna says, I, dwelling within their hearts, destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. So true friendship, true love, means that in all our relationships, whether they're family relationships, friendship, actual friendship, means that in all of our dealings, in all of our exchanges, whether they're fun and jovial or a serious conversation or casual, but the essential intention is to support each other in that most sublime goal of human life, to connect with that highest guidance within. Connect with that highest guidance within, and then, and Prabhupada words it so perfectly as always, yes, then, right, okay, so the Bhagavad Gita 10.1011 confirms emphatically that the pure devotees who are constantly engaged in the loving transcendental service of the Lord are directly advised by the Lord, okay? So then we can't go wrong. That's the path of perfection. The material world is intrinsically full of defects, propensities for inebriety, for cheating, disturbances coming from our own mind and body, disturbances coming from other living entities, disturbances coming from natural disasters. At the same time, we can perfect our lives. We can make our lives sublime. a British poet, I think maybe American. Anyhow, said, lives of great men all remind us we can make our lives sublime. And departing, leave behind us footprints in the sands of time. So that so Prabhupada says that the Bhagavad Gita confirms emphatically that the pure devotees who are constantly engaged in a loving transcendental service of the Lord are directly advised by the Lord, so much so that the devotee unwaveringly makes progress on the path home back to Godhead. So this is the path of perfection, that my desires are fully one with Krishna's desires. This is the so we can make our lives sublime and leave enduring footprints on the sands of time by acting according to our eternal nature. And so that our actions are producing results in the realm of that which is timeless, in the realm of that which will not be ever crushed or devastated by time. So this is the realm of bhakti. And yes, so Prabhupada, I'm feeling his urgency here. He wants us to be captivated by this information, right? That's so much so that the devotee unwaveringly makes progress on the path home back to Godhead. So like in the awakened state, it's like, yes, I want that. I'm tired of this desert life, of this dry life where happiness or peace is really just relief. Just like my misery today is not as much as yesterday. My mind's a little relieved compared to yesterday, or I'm not suffering as much as her or him. No, here we're talking about the positive intrinsic bliss of the soul awakening, and that happens through this process of hearing and chanting and humbly serving. This is the path of perfection. Perfection is not something, it's not like some external definition that when something external is arranged in a particular way. No, this is the soul's desires more and more each day aligned, simply to match, simply to align with Krishna's desires, and then our natural spiritual personality is awakened. Otherwise, we've got this kind of like dreamland machine desert personality. So, and then, then a theme here, which will be emphasized even more in the next verse, is Brahma is asking Krishna, yes, okay, so let me be your instrument. Nimittamachram Bhavasavi Sachi. Let me be your instrument without being conditioned by such activities. Right? So even we do devotional service, and then we can become proud of it. Oh, look, I've done this service. I've chanted these rounds. I've done these programs. Okay. And then we become proud, whether materially or spiritually. That's like a core nature of the conditioning, of the conditioning. And so Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he says in one of his 8 well-known verses Shikshastakam, Trinadapi Sunichena Tawari Vasahishnuna Manina Manadena Kirtanya Sadari. And he's saying, well, first of all, the verse starts with to cultivate a mentality where we see ourselves as lower than the grass, and we cultivate the quality of being more tolerant than a tree. Right? You're probably all familiar with the giving tree. I remember back around 20 years old, I read The Giving Tree by Shel Silverstein. Okay, so the tree, it's known for tolerance, right? So be more tolerant than a tree, more humble than a blade of grass. Amani namanade na, desiring, demanding, no respect for oneself, ready to offer all respects to others. So we can look, the verse starts with humility, tolerance, devoid of false pride, ready to humbly offer respects to others. And then the last part of the verse, Kirtanya Sadari, then we're free to do kirtan 24 hours a day. Okay. And it starts with humility, tolerance, no demand for respect, ready to offer respect. And then our heart and consciousness is in a condition, is prepared to do kirtan. Kirtanya Sadahari. How much? Sada, always. Kirtan of Hari. That's an important point, because kirtan is becoming more and more popular around the world. This is wonderful. This is transcendentally wonderful. And we give Prabhupada all credit for that. So many things. Even like if we look the past 55 years, how much more popular vegetarianism has become. And so even for something like that, where most leaders of the vegetarian movement probably would not even hardly notice Bhaktivedanta Swami, but I'm going to assert that Bhaktivedanta Swami is the main catalyst of what's become the vegetarian movement. Although he didn't say we're starting a vegetarian movement, just we're Krishna conscious, then naturally we have a sattvic diet, which is good for the earth and good for ecology and all of that. So Kirtanya Sadahari. So Hari that's a name for Krishna. So kirtan, technically speaking, you can't have Shiva kirtan, you can't have Kali kirtan. Of course, if it's kirtan, like we say, Jai Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada. Okay, so Prabhupada is a pure devotee of Krishna, so then that's non-different than Hari kirtan. That's non-different from Hari kirtan. So sure, if we're having kirtan for Shiva as Vaishnavanam Yata Sambhu, okay, then it's bona fide. Otherwise, it's bogus. It's just not there in the Vedas. Shiva kirtan or Kali kirtan, it's just not there in the Vedas. Again, other than in their capacity as pure devotees. Kshiram Yata Vikara Vishesha Yoga Sanjayatena Tata Pritak Asti Hetu Yasambutam. Yasambutam apitata samupaiti karya Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajam. So Lord Shiva, in his actual capacity, he's doing everything he's doing and managing the parts of the universe that he manages for the pleasure of Govinda. He's always doing Hari Kirtan. So where it's part of the Bhagavatam, where Brahma, he's got this big service. Of course, not as big as some other Brahmas. This is one of the relatively small universes. But anyhow, we can probably all relate, like, oh, I got so much to manage today. I got so much to manage. So Brahma, his service is to manage the entire universe, including us. Okay, so just, he's got bigger administrative burdens than we have. Okay, and so he's qualified. He's qualified for that service, and he's praying that let me do the service effectively in excellence and with humility. Let me not become falsely proud. Let me not become conditioned. So this is key principle to follow, and so this humility is not humiliation, right? Humility, we can see it as being like, I know my position, I know my service. We can see that in the name of humility, Brahma, he's not going to just hide in a corner and be quiet. He's boldly creating, managing. He's the engineer of the universe. So humility means I'm surrendered. I'm surrendered to my service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And in that, I'm boldly, and in that surrender, I'm ready to stand up boldly for truth. So that's a distinction, right? Because humility doesn't mean, oh, so I'm just, I'm too scared to speak. No, it means like, yeah, humility means that I'm not going to like defend me being right. It's not about me being right or me looking good. It is about me standing for truth. It is about me. In fact, if in the name of humility, and in the name of humility, I'm not boldly, enthusiastically engaging in devotional service, that is arrogance. How can you say I'm arrogant? I'm just this quiet person who never offends anyone. Yeah, are you standing up for Prabhupada's movement? Are you taking a stand? Are you enthusiastically engaging in this eternal process, contributing to the Sankirtan movement? No, I'm too fallen. Yeah, that's arrogance. That's arrogance. That I'm not surrendering to be an instrument of Krishna's internal energy. That's arrogance. So I mean, it doesn't mean standing for I'm right, defending my ego. Humility is standing for truth, and whatever gets in the way, humbly, enthusiastically, with full force, engaged steadily engaged in the service. Yami navyatiyante te pusham pusharshaba samaduka sukam dhira sobi tatvaya kalpade. That one who's steady in happiness and distress and not disturbed by either. That's the liberated platform. Happiness and distress can take the form of, I'm being honored, yay. I'm being insulted, I'm being dishonored. Oh, I'm going to fight back, I'm going to attack you back. It's just like, yeah, like in Bhagavad Gita, there's places where it says like the enlightened soul sees gold and pebbles the same. Okay, right? Meaning that for me personally, I mean, I'm not saying me personally, I'm not on that platform of consciousness, but for the pure devotee, it's not like, oh, the gold will make me happy and the pebbles, they're worthless. I want the gold. Now, of course, the devotee might want billions of dollars of gold to use for the actual owner of all the gold mines, Krishna. Okay, but that's not for personal gratification. But then Bhagavad Gita goes on, more advanced than seeing gold and pebbles as the same is being equiposed in honor and dishonor, right? Whether like, oh, I won big in the stock market. Oh, my finances are ruined. Okay, to be equal in that shows some spiritual progress. But even more challenging for the material conditioned soul, showing even more spiritual advancement, is to be equiposed in honor and insult. That gets deeper to the root. Yeah. Yes. Actually, I was this morning, I was just taking a japa walk here in the neighborhood where I live in Alachua, Florida. And so I was taking a stone's throw away from my house, right on the nearest corner, there's this church. It's not a real big church, but they have these signs. And this particular church usually doesn't have signs that catches my interest so much. But because I was trying to meditate on this verse while chanting japa, I'm not saying that we should distract ourselves from, but that's where my mind went, which is a lot better than where my mind usually goes when trying to chant japa. Anyhow, so on the church sign, got the board, and it was a quote from Matthew, from the book of Matthew, and it was something like, maybe slightly paraphrasing, something like, pray, bless your enemies, pray for the good of those who insult you. It's something like that. So it's just very aligned with this humility principle. I'm reminded there's a statement from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, the guru of Srila Prabhupada. Bhaktisiddhanta said, one who praises me is my enemy. So, meaning, of course, that one thing can be, of course, in healthy relations, there's natural exchange of appreciation for one another's qualities and achievements, natural, healthy. Praise, of course, can be like, I'm praising you because I have some agenda. I want you on my team, or I want you to like me. I've got some ego-attached motivation for that. So I don't think Bhaktisiddhanta was speaking necessarily when he says that. One who praises me is my enemy. Wasn't speaking necessarily about the consciousness of those who are praising, but he's like speaking about let's be cautious that when we get honored, are we letting that go to our head? Are we indulging in enjoying the honor and the praise, and maybe it's sincere appreciation, maybe it's manipulative praise, whatever it is, are we letting it go to our head? Are we letting it distract us from humble, enthusiastic devotional service? That's a caution. Krishna in the 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita describes the qualities for one to progress on this path back home, back to Godhead, and fully consistent with Lord Brahma's meditation and prayer. The first quality is nirmana, humility, pridelessness. Lord Kapila Dev describes the qualities of a devotional soul. Titikshava karunika suridam sarvadehinam ajatra sattva ajata sattrava santa sadava sadubhushanam. That a devotee has no enemies. Now, others, like there were some people who regarded Jesus as an enemy or regarded Prabhupada as an enemy. A devotee regards there's no personal enemies. A devotee is truly compassionate and merciful and a true friend to all living entities. They might regard them, the others might regard the devotee as great or terrible. Again, I mean, some people regarded Jesus as an enemy like that. But the devotee is a true friend, and knowing how to be a true friend, that however I relate to you, whether it's in humor or chastisement or soft as a rose or hard as a thunderbolt, I'm relating to you with your true well-wisher, your true best interest in mind, to come out of illusion, tamasima, come out of the darkness, gama, and into the light. It's described about the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. Nana Shastra, Dhira Jana Priya Priyakara Nimatsarao Pujita, that they were very dear to everyone. So a devotee doesn't see anyone as enemy. He's a friend to all living entities. Still, if someone treats him or her inimically, the devotee is just naturally in their Krishna consciousness. That's Atmarama. Atmarama means self-satisfied, which with no insecurity or dark shadow sides that I need to protect or defend. Because there's just that blissful self-satisfaction, and from that platform, the devotional soul engages in para upakara, in the highest welfare work for all living entities. Now, this verse is Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 9, Text 29. Bhagavat Chikshitam Aham Karavani Yatandrita Neyamana Praja Sargam Bhadyayam Yadanugrahat. Please tell me so that I may be taught in the matter by the instruction of the personality of Godhead, and may thus act instrumentally to generate living entities without being conditioned by such activities. Thank you for listening. Hare Krishna. I welcome any comments or questions?
Hare Krishna. I was interested in sincerity. Sincerity is a desire.
You're asking sincerity?
Yeah, it's like it's sincerity. I'm trying to think of like, does Krishna supply sincerity? Do you have it inside of you? Is it like something that happens to you, or it comes from within, from the core of your heart? And how do you cultivate it?
Okay, yeah, I appreciate the question. I see it as one of those chicken and the egg things. That, yeah, really, because of sincerity, it's a way of being. It's a state of being. It's a consciousness that I'm sincere. I'm not duplicitous like that. It's a consciousness, and at the same time, yeah, Krishna through Super Soul is the source of everything. So whereas like I'm responsible for my sincerity, still, yeah, we're encouraged. Let that be part of my prayer. That, okay, if I look at myself with a little humility, I can see I'm not as sincere. I like to tell myself I'm a whole lot more sincere about spiritual life than I really am. So, my dear Lord Krishna, my dear Srila Prabhupada, give me sincerity to serve you. So it's a way of being, it's a consciousness, and it's something we can and ought to pray for sincerity. That's and you know, we don't want to get too mental about it, but we can take it back to, well, even there where Srila Prabhupada, please give me sincerity to serve you. Actually, that prayer itself is not very sincere. Give me sincerity to at least want to be sincere. Of course, that can get all entangled in mental stuff, but so I see it's both and. It's not either or. Sincerity, we're responsible. We're the source of our sincerity or lack of it. It's a way of being. It's a consciousness, and we can humbly pray, not in a victim way, like, well, Krishna, Srila Prabhupada, if you give me sincerity, I'll be sincere. It's up to you. No, like, to really be sincere about that prayer.
And earlier in the class, we talked about what's natural for the soul.
Yeah.
And I think sincerity is also probably authentic quality of the soul. And so being sincere would mean setting up a lifestyle, would show.
Yeah.
Sincerity would mean like acting on setting up a lifestyle and a consciousness, a life that supports cultivating Krishna consciousness. Like that's what sincerity looks like. It's not just a feeling inside. It's like, okay, it's like yeah, I guess it's what you already said. It's what is the source of sincerity? Krishna created us, and sincerity lives inside of our unconditioned state. So anyway.
Thank you. I appreciate discussion on this. Comment a little more, because your comment takes it a bit further to the be, do, have principle. That yes, sincerity is natural. It's right. It's like these are natural sattvic, spiritual, brahminical qualities. Simplicity, not making things unnecessarily complex. Right, being sincere, childlike. We often hear those from those who describe their experience with Prabhupada, that he was so just innocent and childlike, sincere, just wants to serve his spiritual master's mission, just wants to serve Krishna. And okay, so it's a consciousness, like Krishna consciousness. It's not intrinsically about a doing. It's not about rules and regulations. At the same time, yeah, we can look that, okay, if I'm sincere about devotional service, then there will be some there will be some doing that naturally flow from that sincere being. There will be some doing, like that if I'm sincere about serving Krishna, I really want to serve you. Okay, so then it means that here we are at 8:39 a.m. Right? Yeah. Here we are, morning, and so we're giving time to Krishna. It shows some sincerity. We're giving time to Krishna. We spent, whether it's 10 minutes or 2 hours, chanting Krishna's names. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Otherwise, it'd be like, yes, Krishna, I really want to serve Prabhupada. Serving your mission is the only thing that matters to me. I'm so sincere. Okay, in a given day, how much time do we give to being with Krishna in his name, in his vibration? How much time do we give to studying Prabhupada's words? These are natural actions that are signs of sincerity, for sure. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Damayanti.
Hare Krishna.
Malini.
I'm, hearing you and Damayanti, I'm looking at some things that I've been challenged. Lately, I have a lot of challenges, so I think a lot. And hearing you too, it seems that there is a connection also between sincerity and honesty of desire.
Yeah.
And maybe a way, I'm just conjuncturing here, like a way to increase sincerity is that honesty. Let's say, like, even on a material level, like say, I want to quit smoking, and then I still smoke cigarettes. But no, I'm sincere. I sincerely want to quit smoking. I really, really want to quit smoking. I'm sincere. But then, maybe a way to go there will be like, yeah, I do want to quit smoking, and I also desire to smoke cigarette because I like it. And maybe with that honesty of desire, it helps us to grow our sincerity.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, thank you.
Like, yeah, I want to serve Prabhupada, and why, yes, and I want to be comfortable, and I want to spend idle time, and I want to, and really like becoming honest with my other sincere desires. And then through that, maybe like having a platform to become more sincere. Otherwise, it seems that it's just willpower, and willpower have a limitation.
Yes. Thanks for that, Malini. Yes. Yes. Nothing. Yes. Nothing builds more confidence than the first 4 hours of a diet. Meaning, I'm telling myself, I'm so sincere. I'm this new diet forever, and after 4 hours, like, wow, yeah, I have so much confidence like that. But then in the 5th hour, the 6th hour, I have some sincerity about the diet, but I'm also sincere about potato chips. I see that. Yeah, I have a deeper sincerity about potato chips. Okay, thank you, Malini. Yes, so the sincerity, and because it can be something easy to say. Palena pariciyate. We can judge it. We can judge a tree by its fruits. So I can look at my life, and that reflects how sincere I am. And there's maybe some mixture of sincerity and sincerity about keeping material attachments that are very dear to me. Yeah, I'm sincere about that too. And with that honesty, as you're saying, Melanie, with that honesty, with that true authenticity, not just a mask of authenticity, with that true authenticity, that's a platform to, okay, let me create structures, let me create an inner and external life such that tomorrow, next month, I'll be more sincere than today. Thank you, Melanie.
Yeah, and based on that, I have a question, and at the same time, because it seems it's so based on desire, but also desire. So, like, I'm wondering, is it increasing on a sincerity or increasing desire? And by increasing desire, then sincerity follows? Because so much of, like, like the teaching is desire is the activity of the soul.
Yeah,
So really being like we are aware of our desire and really to focus instead of focusing on willpower and acting is focusing on increasing desire.
yeah, increasing desire. And Prabhupada uses that term, sincere desire. So I see the principles of sincerity and desire as intimately linked, intimately linked. And yeah, it's different than willpower can be like the first 4 hours of a diet, then willpower turns out to be not so strong. So I see the way Prabhupada uses the term, from my understanding, is like they're, if not synonymous, desire and sincerity, they're intricately linked. That the actual depth of desire, it's like it's a mirror of our sincerity.
It's a mirror of our sincerity, and can we put our effort towards increasing desire?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, definitely. And my sense from Prabhupada is he gives a lot of energy to encourage us, challenge us to do just that, to let me increase my desire to serve. Let me increase my desire to detach from these degrading material habits. Yeah, to increase our desire. And that's sincerity, to the extent that we're actually increasing our desire.
Thank you.
Thank you, Melanie. Parampara.
Hare Krishna. So I wanted to, you were speaking about the principle of the Vaishnav not having any enemies. And then also in Christianity, the principle of love your, praying for your enemies or loving your enemies, that concept. And it brought to mind, I recently saw, I read something that was from basically like a black empowerment, black empowerment kind of group or whatever, that kind of thought leader, and was saying basically, the only kind of religion that teaches you to love your enemies is a religion of your enemies, and is kind of highlighting that that Christianity was used, especially in the American slavery system. It was kind of cherry picked, different verses were cherry picked or different aspects were emphasized that served to keep the slaves subordinate and things like that, to kind of validate. So that's kind of the perspective where they were coming from. And so there's these principles can be easily manipulated and misused and used to manipulate others. And then it's likewise with ourselves that that we can use these spiritual principles to kind of manipulate ourselves or to victimize ourselves in a way. And I know right now there's a lot, there's always is, but it's Child Abuse Prevention Month, and so I think there's more awareness around it. And then there's see things on Facebook, actually things that are related with you, with your child protection office, coming to light, or coming to more to the forefront on Facebook at least, and around the community and devotee community, and so, and then so the child abuse also. We were just speaking in one of my men's gathering. We were floating down the river of Ichitugni yesterday, a group of men, which is I invite any man in the community who would like to join those gatherings. You're welcome to join. It's an advertisement here, the devotee community, our devotee community. And we were just kind of bring up the topic. It's like a stereotype, a classic stereotype would be like the battered wife, defending the husband, and so like likewise, I think that could happen with child abuse or whatever, or the victim of the oppressor, kind of defending the oppressor. So those kind of three, I'm bringing those three things to light to find and maybe ask you to speak about that distinction of I'm taking a responsibility. It's very Savatov, seminars and things. I'm taking responsibility, but it can be a fine line. I'm taking responsibility. I'm praying for my enemy. I'm loving my enemy. Everything was perfect. There's a reason I'm taking responsibility, and at the same time, like they're wrong. Whoever the oppressor, the abuser, they're wrong. They're not right. Maybe they should be in prison. But still, there's like, how to make that distinction, because it seems for ourselves, and I've seen it in others, and maybe in myself also, that it can be a fine line between, like the battered wife defending her husband, versus like taking full responsibility and not, and praying for your enemy and loving your enemy. So I just wanted to bring that up and see if you would what comes for you about that. Hare Krishna.
Okay, thank you, Prabhu. Thanks for that. Very philosophical yet very in the news, current events type topics. Yeah, actually, just last night I received a letter from a child protection office, and apparently because of some podcast interview, I was interviewed like a year and a half ago, and from other things, that stuff happening on Facebook involving stuff I did 23 years ago when I was director of a child protection office. So things are, a lot of things are coming to the surface, and some things are moving in what seems to be a healthy direction, healthy from whether a sattvic or transcendental point of view. So I just got a personal letter in that regard yesterday. So, hearing what you're talking about, I'm thinking of like in the second verse of the Bhagavatam, right at the beginning, and let's call it Vyasadev's 3 invocation verses. The second one, Dharma Pojita Kortivacha Parmani Matsuanam Satam Vejam Vastamamacha Shivadam Tapu Chavan Mulanam. That this Srimad Bhagavatam rejects all materially motivated cheating religion, all cheating and material motivations in the name of religion. And it propounds the highest truth, which is reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all. So sure, like if what the settlers in America or other parts of the world, and they're enslaving darker skinned people, and they're using religion to do that, or something like that, or you gave other domestic examples. So that's terrible. That's why more and more each generation people are losing interest in just conventional religion, because it's used or misused for oppression. Like my class, the Christians, the Buddhists, our religion's the best, and we use it to oppress races and genders. That's terrible, and it's even more terrible than to do it just in the name of secularism, because then it's such a misrepresentation of the divine. So that's what the Bhagavatam starts by acknowledging that. The Bhagavatam starts saying we have no interest in this cheating, materially based. We have no interest in religion that's based on your birth certificate. based on your birth certificate, here's your age, gender, nationality, race, or your political party, or like that. No. So this is true, non-sectarian, universal. And so otherwise, you're familiar with the analogy that's spoken by Narada Muni to the Prachetas towards the end of the 4th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. That just like we water the root of the tree, then all the branches, leaves, and twigs naturally flourish and are nurtured. So watering the root of the tree, that's Bhagavatam, that's Bhagavad Gita, that's understanding who we are, spirit, souls. So the branches, the leaves, the twigs, that represents all the races, all the colors, all the political parties, the Chinese, the Mexicans, the Africans, that we can see, yes, you're not this body, women and men, all the bodies. No, this your eternal spirit, soul. This is just the car you're driving. We don't want to ignore the car. We want to pay attention to the car. Yes. So that's why I hardly ever use the word religion. Prabhupada sometimes used it to be short to say, but here's the actual thing. Actual religion is a science of self-realization that transforms the heart from mundane qualities of sectarianism and greed and lust and hate to the actual sublime qualities of the natural qualities of the spirit soul. That's why Prabhupada, he used the term, it's a science of self-realization. That's a term I really like. I you've heard me say, I was never interested in religion, and I'm still not. I am interested in a science of self-realization that actually works to palpably transform the heart for myself and others. That's exciting. And that gets it watering the root of the tree. That is, if we're actually self-realized, actually developing our love for the divine, for God, for Krishna, then there's no question of wanting to oppress this one or that one based on gender, nationality, or race. So so intelligence. Krishna says, one who's sincere, I give the intelligence. A big part or manifestation of that intelligence is the capacity, the sincerity, and the intelligence to distinguish between the real thing, the genuine article, and actual spiritually based, universal science of the soul of self-realization and cheating religion. The actual thing and cheating religion. And that requires sincerity and intelligence. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Parampara Prabhu. I appreciate your comments and question. Thank you all. Any other sharing, comments, questions? George.
Hi, Krishna. It's actually Danielle today.
Danielle. Okay.
So I'm really appreciating today's discussion and everyone's questions. I'm finding myself having a lot of curiosity around the definition of natural. I like clear definitions, and I like when it feels intuitive. And I guess what's coming up for me is the way that we use natural. And I don't know, in marketing, or the way colloquially it's used. I saw some organic SpaghettiOs that were 100% natural recently. And I guess for me, a lot of things that I like to do feel pretty natural, but they might not be what I really want or what's best for me, or even possible sometimes to do something different, I think about Saraswati trying to sit still. It seems natural to be able to sit still, but I don't know when that happens, unless a butterfly catches her attention or something, it's not really going to be possible for her. She's not in control of that right now. And I think about, because Malini was talking about smoking, and that's a big one for me. I love smoking. I didn't start until I was in my late 20s. I only smoked for about 3 years, but man, it felt like coming home. Like, it felt really great, just like the process. And I would not have stopped for myself. I would not have stopped for my health. I would not have stopped for like anything other than the fact that I cared about George and it hurt him. And if he had come at me like, hey, you better stop because, XYZ is bad for you, I would never have done it. He just didn't say any of that. He was just very gentle and sad and honest about. Even now, it's upsetting because I still want to smoke every day. Like, I still really enjoy it 5 years later. The idea of it, at least. But I don't want to put him through that. And I wonder if love somehow comes into the equation of what's natural, especially when it's counter to what I really want. Maybe it's not what I really want, but the things that I would ordinarily seem to be like in line with my psychophysical nature. So that's coming up for me. Like, what is this idea of natural? Like, how do I cultivate this? And yes, there's desire. You know how they always say the no is the deeper yes. There's a deeper yes under the no.
Yeah.
And the idea of austerity comes up, but then I don't want to white knuckle stuff and then end up rebounding and, inauthentically spiritually bypassing myself and having some sort of even more entanglement. I don't know, it's complicated. I don't have a good answer for this, but I guess the idea of natural is what's coming up for me. And like, is natural always good? Like I hear a lot of things that are supernatural that maybe are not so great. So like, what's the fine line between doing what is authentic and in my integrity? And then what is giving up something in order to get like what I really want? Like, what's the deeper yes? And then also, how much externally does that look towards other people? And then like, if I get feedback from other people about, because that's always very entangling too, because sometimes I get feedback and it's confusing for me. Like, okay, maybe I'm not doing the right thing, or maybe I am doing the right thing. And it's a lot of traps, a lot of, really how to distinguish what's true for me. And I know that we always are not, nobody's left without the very highest guidance. And Prabhupada is very clear in his books. We can always turn to him. And I know that Paramatma is right there, but even still, it feels like a lot of pressure. I mean, I can't even get Saraswati to sit still. So yeah, I don't know. This idea of natural is very interesting to me. So like a clear, definitive idea of what natural is and how we use that in our lives. And where's the place of love? Because I feel like love is important in this idea of what we're doing, or what I'm doing, at least. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, it's natural. It's natural to smoke. It's natural to eat meat. It's natural to gamble, and it's natural to have loose sexual relations with no regulation. It's all natural. It is all natural. And so this process of bhakti yoga is to do what's unnatural, to gradually evolve our consciousness to the point where we're doing that what's natural on a much deeper level. So for the conditioned souls, that's me. For conditioned souls, I think it was last week we had a class we entitled regulation means it's not good. So regulative principles means that because we naturally want, to eat meat and smoke and do all these things. And so why is it regulated in any genuine spiritual program? Rise early. No, it's natural for me to sleep till the sun is high in the sky, not this rise early before sunrise thing. It's natural for me to sleep till the sun is high in the sky. And then to smoke a joint, and then to have a hamburger. That's natural, right? So then we regulate those things so that more and more gradually, and in 6th chapter Bhagavad Gita, Krishna emphasizes gradually, step by step, utsanishtadaya tat karma pravartana. It requires patience. So gradually what is natural for the soul emerges. I like the principle of love you brought into that. It's natural for you to smoke cigarettes, natural. And you decided, okay, so you have a sincere desire to smoke cigarettes, but a deeper sincerity is to love George, and so you gave up cigarettes. So again, so okay, so there's natural in the relative temporary sense related to mind, ego. Let's just say, I like that distinction. What's normal, normal or typical. So let's say if I'm a good law-abiding citizen in Dusseldorf, 1942, it's normal, it's natural to report that there's a Jewish family there, and I should report them to authorities. That's integrity. That's integrity. Okay. All right. So, or to say it's from Prague, let's say it's whatever, 1790. And then it's normal, it's natural to own slaves. I mean, every upstanding white person owns slaves, of course. Okay, so we can see that, the 1942 Dusseldorf example, or 1790 in Carolina or whatever. Okay, so we can see that for a particular time and circumstance, so in my conditioning, it was natural to eat hamburgers and steak. Well, we can see all these things. So natural for my stomach, for my sense of my membership in a particular society. All right. So then human life. So we want to acknowledge that, and we don't want to discard it. But that's temporary. That's temporary dharma, which here's what's good in Dusseldorf in 1942. Here's what's good for David Wolf in Northeast Philadelphia in 1974. Of course, you eat dead cows. You don't even think about it. But actually, those things are quite evil. It's actually quite evil. So human life is meant gradually, authentically, meet ourselves where we're at, as a platform for going towards what's natural for the soul. And that means austerity, not pulling the reins too tight and white knuckling. This process is joyfully performed. It relates to Malini's comment earlier. Okay, honestly, here's where I'm at as an excuse to be complacent. No, here's where I'm at, and as a foundation for sincerely, gradually progressing. That'll be more towards the actual natural dharma of the soul next year than this year. Those are some comments.
Krishna, so what I'm hearing is there are universal spiritual principles outside of time, place, and circumstances. And the other thing I'm hearing is that there's twofold love. There's love for others who have my best interest at heart. And then there's also love and compassion for myself for being in my process and working towards my ultimate goals without needing perfection immediately. That there's compassion, love, and there's also respect and love for those who give me good feedback and care.
I appreciate that, Danielle, including the part of, empathy and compassion for all parts of myself. The part of myself that's disgusted with my material habits, the part of myself, empathy and compassion, the part of myself that is attached to it. This is what I grew up with. So compassion, empathy with all parts of ourselves. That integration of acceptance of self, while deepening our surrender to this process that moves us towards absolute love and absolute good. Thank you, Daniel. I appreciate the conversation. Okay, thank you all. Thanks for your association. Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhupada.
Hare
Krishna, Hare Krishna.